It's been a minute. Let's do a story time. Yay! Yay! I wonder what this one will be about. The Page of Cups and the Eight of Cups. Mmm. This one will be about the runaway lover boy. Lover girl. You pick up where we left off, maybe? I think that's what the people want. So, the empress sent the message in the bottle to the magician, and she hoped for the best. Meanwhile, she was in a brand new town, and everyone saw how beautiful and how romantic and how soft and how lovely she was, and how fast. That bitch be moving. She's moving through the street. It was hard to keep her in any one place long enough to have a conversation. And people could tell that was on purpose. But it seemed unfair. They were wondering what caused such a lovely woman to be so hesitant to stay still. The smart few realized or considered it could be because she was so lovely. And she lamented that no one could really understand the type of pain that she had been through. Mostly because she couldn't understand it herself. The story of her past was one that was chained in her mind. And it was very frustrating because she could see the bars, but they hurt too much to touch. And when she did touch them, what she saw was too vile to speak to. And the most vile thing of all was her quiet hope that she'd be reunited with the magician. It was the thing that made the least sense to her. It actually came out in reverse. I'll be so real with you. Did I drop two? Just the one. It was strange because they really hadn't spent a lot of time together, and what they did share was strange and esoteric, one sided, odd. And although the horrors she saw were difficult to speak to for obvious reasons, her love was hard to speak to because it seemed very unfounded. But still, she dwelled on it often. And sometimes it hurt her to think it might just be a tool to help distract from the craziness is her escape. But it felt like a little bit more than that. Regardless, her past was sealed away, And in this new town and in this new city, people didn't see the magician who had so much acclaim in his world. Maybe felt his whispers, but only through her speech. People saw a dragon, a slayer. This empress was stronger than most of the men that had dared to approach her. With one word, she could kill a conversation. She could threaten without threatening. She could manifest without moving. So, what's the conflict now? She was lonely. It's kind of boring. That very much was the case. Her journey had been so exciting, so full of twists and turns, murder and kidnapping, death, experiments, strange sights, stranger sounds. But here, in the safety of this new town, all she could really do was wait. Everything that she had planned had been set in motion. And so it was really about waiting for the rest of the world to catch up to the world that she created in her mind. In her mind, it was a magical world, a lovely world. But it almost felt like the grand prisons that she had existed in before were replaced by this one of the mundane. There's a quote that hell is when there's only three places you know and three places you go. And so she felt trapped by this piece in a way that she struggled to articulate. So, what did she do? She started fights in subtle ways. I'm sure the ones involved wouldn't even recognize it as such until they felt her breathing on their necks. A subtle climb into something that was a little dastardly. She was surprised at how much it made her glow to put people into a well of discomfort. For so long, she was a creature of beauty, of light, of giving. The traps that she escaped had given her the skills of her captors, and now she wondered, while she waited for the bliss and the blessings to arrive, why not ease some of the boredom by being just a little bit bad? She had learned some magic. Perhaps it was magic she's always known. But as she contemplated and waited for her dreams to become reality, in her boredom, she decided to invade the dreams of others. With no clear reason, except maybe a curiosity of what kept other people so stuck in their lives. And maybe a desire to make their lives a little bit more exciting in a way she couldn't really do for herself without sacrificing her peace. She would drift in and out of dreamscapes, mostly observing, seeing strange sights, sounds, curious about what made the rest of the world tick, realizing her mind was so different from others. Until one day, she got an invitation from a king of wands. An invitation someone less adept would miss. An invitation someone less adept could not ignore. She thought it was fascinating. Although she wasn't entirely interested, she wasn't entirely disinterested either. She figured, why not have a little taste of the world that is being offered? She knew how to carefully watch her words and how to fight herself out of any situation. So there was nothing she could really lose. And she had these questions about the beings that were as powerful as her. She found herself going unnoticed more often than not. She remembered spending a whole evening and morning and evening with a friend from her past before he looked her in her eyes and said, "You're invisible, aren't you?" And then it nearly brought her to tears of recognition, of sadness. But now she realized it was a gift to be unseen, where all these other magical creatures gloated and smiled and snarled and shook with all their magic. She would calmly enter the room and something would feel strange, but not unusual. It had provided her a strength that few others were able to master, a strength of submission, where she could allow herself to be toyed with for a little while. And she liked it. To exhibit such incredible strength all the time, it was nice every now and then to be silent, to nourish, and to let her own emotions become second to those of someone else. She was surprised, though, what it illuminated about her. This hulking king of wands. with his smile shining like a beacon from his dark lair. Was hungry for more light. And she found this to be usual. As most dark kings, once they possess their realm of darkness, there's nothing else to do but seek a candle in the wind, and that's what she tended to be. But what was different about this king? What was different about this game? Tell me, Spirit. That hers was the only light he wanted. He had given up on his typical games of trapping as many souls as possible in his dark lair. I think it bored him. And now there was only one light that he craved. And it wasn't until she felt herself in his hands and he realized her weight was so different when she slipped through his dark fingers into the quiet solitude of her hermit's den. Then she realized he didn't want to hurt her. That he had something else planned. A path for her that she didn't understand until she couldn't find a way to return to him. Stressed, staring into her dark mirror. With the spoils from his dark lair balanced in her hands. She wondered, why did this offer of love feel so strange? And she stared at her options from many different angles, all the possibilities that she might not have considered started to dance around her, still unseen but felt, until the dance in her mind dizzied her. And she allowed herself to put the whole ordeal to rest, to make an offering of peace, and to focus on her own world, balancing her own business. Making sure that her steps were careful as the raging sea behind her grew more and more tumultuous as her past began to catch up to her. And as the waves began to crash louder and louder at the shore of her new home, almost drunk in the fear of the peace drifting away, the King of Wands began to wonder, why did I make that offer? When the cups of his love were spilled in a way that he had almost anticipated, almost known, almost planned. Why did he do it anyway? And there was a quiet shaking in his gut that maybe he made this offer because he wanted to be happy. And maybe that was his only chance. And maybe he should make an effort to draw her back in. Maybe it doesn't have to be so hard. Maybe it isn't so dangerous. Maybe I don't have to overthink this. Maybe I'll just use my will and see what happens. The destruction the empress wrought could not be undone, but perhaps it meant that it couldn't be done again. Felt like there was only one way to find out. But this time, he would be a bit more careful. And perhaps she would be more careful too. Now that she understood the value that she brought was more than a superficial desire. She would be moving more slowly, more carefully, more pensively to figure out exactly what it was. Strange the mystery of it all. With, with desire so strong. I think the greatest mystery is how can you move slowly and carefully and defiantly, softly, with something you've already destroyed. It was a mystery that the two seemed up to the challenge for. The Empress knew time, as many knew it, was something that was softer and more malleable. It would be a long time before her message in the bottle would reach the magician on the other side of the shore, and longer still until he fully understood what it meant. And hopefully, by the time he did, he would understand this as well. And she needed something to soothe her heartbreak. She needed to know what it meant for her heart to be full again. How it felt to love after love had become something she never wanted to own or admit to. How to soften the ragged centers of her own longing. How to actually feel like the empress that everyone else seemed to know she was. In that mysterious path, it would require strange and mysterious senses of challenge, of balance, of peace, of deliberation. And she doubted that she could do that alone. So she warily danced back into this trap, more willing to give, more willing to receive, more willing to compromise and negotiate, and more willing to allow fate to play its hand in something that she didn't fully understand, but desperately wanted to. She would use her magic in a gentle but dark way so that it could be understood. And she would let the mysteries unfold as they will.